Hello. I couldn't find my thingy. How's it going? Hello, hello. Hi, Julie. Hi, Tanya. Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Christina. Hi, Chippy. I've seen you at almost all of these, Chippy. It's fun to see some new names and stuff in chat. I appreciate it. Are you guys ready for zipper stuff? Hi, Amy. How's it going? Hi, Elena. Hi, Sarah. How's it going? Hope your eye's feeling better. It's always a bummer. I looked at that chair, Elena. I'm very tempted. Very tempted. I got a gaming chair by Mavix and I had to return it. I was so bummed too. Hi, Beverly. How's it going? All right. So again today, I'm going to go over some zipper stuff and show you a few of the zippers themselves. And then I'm going to sew a few things with you, just kind of like I did yesterday. Magnetic snaps. Not today, but tomorrow. Yeah, exactly, Elena. No, that gaming chair, I was willing to spend $500 on a chair if it was going to cure things. But it didn't. I could not get comfortable in it. And it had so many adjustable things. But again, made for adult males. We are proportionally different. It also had a built-in air conditioning kind of unit, which was so appealing to me. Hi, Margaret. I know that sounds crazy, but it was free. Like it was their special at the time. That's why I was like, okay, this is a good time to get it. It had a heating element too I didn't care about. All right. Let's see here. So I have a lot of zippers and yeah, you're tall, right, Sarah? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if I'm wearing clogs, sometimes they work better, but I'm not always wearing clogs, you know? And I'm not like particularly short. Women are just proportioned differently. And it's just so frustrating. Like I need the seat pan to be a lot shallower. You know, I don't sit at the back of my chair. That is, yeah, I don't do that. Hi, Hannah. How's it going? I would if it was shallow enough. Like this sewing chair is sort of derpy looking, but it is a really shallow seat pan, which is great. I like it. But it's not an all-day sitting chair. Nice chair, but okay. Oh, that's great, Christina. Yeah, my husband has a really nice chair because he inherited it from his last place of work as well. And they had bought them used. Like they were the really, really expensive, nice ones, you know. And they bought them used from someplace closing down. That's how they could afford them. Yeah, yes, exactly, Lena. I think I would too if my feet were on the floor because I want that pressure at the low back. Yeah. Yeah, it's such a big difference. It's a whole new world, right? And that other one had a seat rest, but I was like, I can't sit at a computer with a seat rest or a footrest. Sorry, footrest. My seat was resting on the chair. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to be accused of being distracted by my chat today. Hi, Aisha. How's it going? All right, so I obviously don't have the sexiest assortment visually of zippers, so I'm sorry they're all black, but I came from a world where most of the zipper options that I could get available to me were black because I couldn't have 1,000 yards dyed of a zipper color. It would have actually been more than that. 1,000 yards was a piece of cake for us. We used to buy probably 1,000 yards of zipper, I don't know, like every few months, a lot. Like we were going through a lot of zipper. We figured it out one year. We sewed a mile of zipper one year. But I always used 4.5 coil chain, and that's what this is right here. And 4.5 is the size of the zipper teeth, and they're not teeth in a coil chain, right? It's the coil. This is coil chain. And so it's a continuous piece of probably nylon. So you can't really like remove teeth like you could on something like this metal zipper or those really large molded plastic tooth zippers, right? I do need rainbow zippers, Sarah, and your purse has definitely underscored that. I love your sandhill sling. It's so cute. So this right here, this zipper by the yard is from By Annie Patterns. So if you want colorful zipper by the yard, you can get it from her. My only beef with this is they picked these huge, chunky, heavy metal zipper pulls. And I like something more like this. Like this zipper pull, actually, yeah, this zipper pull is the exact same size for the coil chain as this one. So I don't know, this is metal, this is plastic. I like the lightweightness of this. This is a lot heavier. The other drawback about buying this in general, actually, is that you usually get a set number of sliders per the amount of coiled chain. And if you're someone that uses a lot of really short length zippers, you're probably gonna run out of your sliders first and have to get more. So I would definitely buy the color that you can get replacement sliders for. So that's one of my tips. I'm gonna show you how to put it on there, and something really fun that you can do with Zipper by the Yard. I'm gonna sew a couple things for you. So here's a few of my other zippers. So this one right here, this is like a standard dress weight zipper, right? Not invisible, like this one here is an invisible zipper, right? Both of these we would find very well suited for making things, clothing items, lighter weight, right? It flexes a lot lighter. You feel it a lot less. It's less noticeable, less obtrusive, and the zipper pull is going to be smaller, right? So it blends into the garment more. Whereas in bag making, you're usually looking for something that you can see the pole, you can grab the pole really easily, right? And be able to open up your zipper. So these are zippers for things like pants, and there's a very distinct difference with these, and that's because they lock. So let's say you pull up your pants only halfway, right? They will not go any further. They are locking. This is a locking slider, and you can see, like, just trying to lift it up, it doesn't want to. I have to like pull it up, right? And this one's the same thing. It has a locking slider. That's what makes these appropriate for pants. You could use these in bag making, that's fine, but the locking slider is intended so that the zipper doesn't open. This would be really great for hand pockets, except they'd be very uncomfortable because the metal is super scratchy on your hands. So it's not a very cozy zipper. So there is that. If you're looking for a zipper well, I can actually talk about pocket zippers because I have philosophies about this, and I've had long discussions with other pattern designers who design jackets with zippered pockets about which direction the zipper should go. Should it go this way or this way, upside down or right side up? And there's a lot of discussion about that, so I can talk about that too. I thought this would be really fun to see this huge, gigantic slider. Look at the difference. It's like the Papa Bear of all the sliders. It's huge, and it goes with this really huge zipper. So for context, I use something like this usually. And on camera, it probably doesn't look that big, but it is a really large zipper. And this would be probably in some sort of like heavy-duty case, heavy-duty scenario. Maybe they want this look, right? But it's a little overkill for bag making, right? Oh yeah, you might, Sarah, you might. Yeah, so if you're using something like this, you might be okay. No, I mean, I don't know. Some of these won't go down very easily, but some will. Like I have definitely accidentally bought zippers that look like this from Waywack, and they weren't locking, and I couldn't figure out why my pants kept coming undone, and I realized that they weren't a jean zipper, they were just brass, and that was just on me. I bought them really quickly one day. I needed them like by the next day, and Waywack ships the same day here, and I get it the next day, so that was on me. This is also the 4.5 coil. All right, so another fun kind of zipper is this one here. So this is a zipper that can be sealed. So the back side of the zipper tape has a sealable surface, and they will usually put this in the garment and then use seam tape to make it waterproof. Now, let's talk a little bit about waterproof stuff. I know a little bit about this. This isn't technically a truly waterproof zipper. Oh shoot, I remembered I was gonna bring, I have to remind myself, it'll blow your mind to see a zipper on a waterproof zipper. Maybe I can pull one up on camera. But this wouldn't be waterproof because look, you can even see, look at the hole right there, right? Not waterproof. So the seam would be waterproof. The zipper would not be waterproof. And let me see if I can find a picture of a waterproof zipper. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this is where I used to work. Let me see if I can pull up one of their, I haven't been on their site in so long. What the heck? I'm looking for an exposed zipper before I have to look around my camera. Where are the dry suits? So this is something called a dry suit. And oh, they have dry tops. What does that mean? Dry suits. Oh shoot, I lost it. Dry suits, here we go. I feel like they're doing a zipper flap nowadays. Okay, let me share my screen. I didn't test this camera. All right, so this is a dry suit. I'm gonna look at this one because I can see that it has a exposed zipper right here. Oh, it looks really different than it used to. This is a women's version. I'm trying to see if we can zoom in. There's only 2 pictures. Well, that's kind of sucky. Well, shoot, there isn't a really good, let's see if we can find an old one. Here we go, here's one right here. Oh yeah, this is a coastie suit, this is the Coast Guard suit. We had the contract to do all the Coast Guard stuff. One photo. Wow. So you can see this zipper. Oh, I can't. Let's see if we can zoom in. Sorry, I can't see chat either. Can you see the zipper is raised up above the suit and it sits on top of the outside of the suit? And so what's happening here is the zipper comes together like this, and I'll show you. I can't see my camera to know if I'm showing you correctly. And this is seam sealed around the perimeter, so the seam is waterproof, but also the zipper is waterproof. And this is specifically because of people who are in, could you see that? Could you guys see that? Sorry, hopefully you could see that. So this is specifically for people who are gonna accidentally go overboard in really cold waters. It extends the life of the person and it gives them enough time to adequately get to safety. And the Coast Guard is a really good example of this, since they're kind of living a hybrid work environment, like on water, near water, and on water on boats, hopefully never going into the water. And then there's other elements to this dry suit that make it waterproof, like gaskets at the wrists, ankles, and neck. It's not the greatest like comfort. It's not a cozy outfit, but it saves their life. And I've actually been personally thanked by people who said their life was saved because they were stationed in Alaska, which is really cool. But I just want to illustrate the fact that when you're talking about waterproof stuff, you need to dive deep into it, because you also need to know, oh, is this going to be in salt water or fresh water? Because that's a huge difference, because some of them aren't rated for salt water, right? So this is a waterproof zipper. Now the fun thing about what I have on this zipper here is that I have a slider on this one to make it so you can put the tape, the shiny side, to the outside. Now this is only a feature of the slider. So I can put this slider on here, right? And this one You can see the side view of these two. So, or chlorinated. Chlorinated isn't an issue for the zipper teeth as much as it is for the fabric. But yes. So if you can kind of see the difference, ugh. So what you're looking for when you see these sliders is, do you see how this from the base here up to here is deeper and it's short here? And then this one will be the opposite. You'll see that it's shorter here and then the taller side is this side, right? That tells me I can visually tell the difference between the sliders, because occasionally they'll get mixed up. I keep them pretty separate, but this is a really fun thing, I think it's this one, that allows me to put the slider on the back side. And you can do this with anything. It doesn't matter that it's waterproof. I'm just showing you on waterproof. And it's kind of a clean look, right? It looks pretty snazzy. We could do this also on this one here. This one is stapled at the bottom, so I'm going to start from here. Hi, Kim. So again, I'm thinking this is the same coil. Is it this one? This one. Which one is it? Is it this one, this one? This one or this one? I think it's this one. I don't think this is the right coil. Oh, shoot. Don't I have a 5.0 around here? I know I do somewhere. But it's just the slider. So it's called a, I don't know what it's called. I was going to say, hi Terry, I was going to say that it's a reverse slider, but it's probably not a reverse slider because usually that also means something else. There's a huge world of zippers and sliders, but it is a really sleek, cool look to see zippers sewn into a garment with the tape facing out. It's kind of a neat little detail. And the people who popularized this was a company called Arc'teryx, who you might have heard of. They do outdoor technical stuff, and they sort of revolutionized the world of manufacturing outdoor technical stuff. And a lot of this you'll see in bag making because it's cool, right? It's really cool. So with bag making, I didn't go kind of any of these fancier routes with like I did explore flipping my tape out, but it never really seemed like it was worth like switching everything over and getting new sliders and keeping track of one more thing, right? All right, so anyway, I just thought I'd show you some of these fun things because there are options out there. And if I were looking for things like this, I'd go to a place called The Rain Shed, which is in Washington State. And also, I haven't looked at Discovery Fabrics in Canada, but I might try them. The other outdoor places, I'm not a big fan of, like the smaller ones. Oh, Sailrite is another really good one you can probably try because they also specialize in things for marine use, meaning like ocean, right? So they're also going to talk to you about UV and saltwater issues, but you don't care about that so much in bag making. So if you want to get into some of this technical stuff, like in like backpacks and duffel bags, or even in your own garment making, there's a lot of options out there because I don't know a whole lot about all the really cool decorative fun bag zippers that you see out there, but those are probably pretty standard. They're going to be something like this, a coil chain in different widths. No, the pole is on the outside. I did a mind game on you. It's not this one. It is this one. I don't know why that one doesn't go on there. I think that one's just too big. So it's the pole is on the outside, even though you're still zipping it up. Oh my goodness. Is this not the right one? I keep picking this one up thinking it's this, but it's probably this one. There we go. So see, the pole is on the outside. Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't really matter how the zipper gets used. It still functions the same, and it just gives it a sleeker look. And I could swear that's the same. No, it's larger. That's why it doesn't work. This is 5.0 and this is larger. keep your bags labeled. I have all my bags labeled. Otherwise I get kind of lost. All right. So this isn't very bag specific, but I just wanted to show you a lot of like options with zippers, and there's a lot going on. So here are a few of the parameters when you're shopping for a zipper. I obviously like coiled chain a lot, and the reason I like it is that I can get it by the yard and I can sew through it on the ends. That prevents me from using it in garments and also for jackets. So it does, I don't have zipper by the yard that has a stop at the bottom and that's separating, right? So a jacket zipper that does this, where I could put it in here and sew it up like that. Whoops. You know what I mean, right? I have to pull the other side. So I can't really do that with zipper by the yard, right? So there is some limitations. If you wanted that really sleek look, you could try using an invisible zipper. I see the problem with this is I think that an invisible zipper is a really lightweight zipper. It's usually going to be, I think it's 2.0 to 3.0 coil, just to give you some sort of a reference for what, I'm using something like this 4.5. This is not 4.5 either. Oh, you know what? That's what the problem is with that. So this is 4.5. This is like probably 2.0 or 3.0. I can't remember which one I got from Waywack. It doesn't look that different, but it really is, like, as far as the width goes, they're pretty different. I have a zipper foot. When I bought the zipper foot to put on invisible zippers, I had to select a 2.0 or 3.0 zipper foot. So, all right. So let's see. This is kind of my little bit of my zipper selection here. No, there really aren't, Christina, exactly. And invisible zippers also have the constraint where it's going to wrap the fabric around the seam, because you can see how this zipper curls like this, whereas none of these others like curl. Obviously that's not, but like this one here, it doesn't curl when it's open, right? It's flat, and that's because the zipper is, you're supposed to sew under here. So you pick this up, you sew in this little seam allowance, and it pulls the fabric around and hides the seam of the zipper, right? Or the visual, of the zipper, so you don't see it. So there really aren't really going to be heavier options for that. If you want that look, then you just look for sliders that are upside down. I call these reverse sliders, so I don't think that's technically accurate. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I don't have to shop for them anymore, thankfully. All right, so someone had mentioned at the end of the stream yesterday about if I could show how someone uses these in their bag making, someone specific. So I went and looked at their site, and she is using separating zippers for a lot of her designs. And that's because, like, say it's a pouch that you zip up, but then when you unzip it, the whole thing, the sides of the pouch need to separate and become like a bin, right? So when you're sewing things like that, you have to be very accurate, but there's nothing really different. It's a nice, clean looking zipper, you can use. And there's a lot more options with separating zippers. The problem is that you have to buy the zipper per project, right? So there is that kind of constraint. All right, so let's see. These are, oh wait, here. This is the sourcing name for the knot on the coil side. So yeah, they are called reverse sliders. This is a very old little note that I hang on for dear life. Number 5, coil chain with long pole. That's this one here, so you can get a different pole. Oh, so I was going to tell you, like, the basic parameters when you're looking for zipper. So there's a few. There's the width of the tape, right? The overall width of the zipper, right? This one is obviously much wider than that one, right? There's the size of the teeth or coil, depending on what kind of zipper you're using. Same with the metal, and there's all kinds of different metal zippers, right? These all come in different sizes as well, but it's usually going to be kind of in the, like, the numbers make sense. They kind of correlate to coil chain. So a smaller number is a smaller zipper, and they're in the same like number range, like 2 to 5. So that's kind of helpful. I appreciate the zipper industry for that. And then there's the other parameters of, is it stop at top and bottom like this one does, right? Or is it by the yard where it's never ending? Or is it separating? Where's my separating zipper? So these are 3 very distinct styles of zippers. You know, you could use this one where you use this one. You can't use this one where you use this one or this one. You can't use these 2 where you use this one. It seems like a huge world, but you really can't boil it down to kind of like these 3 styles. And this also has the added constraint that it's a locking slider, right? And then there's the slider quotient as well. Do you want it upside down? Do you want them to bump into each other, right? So head to head, so you have a double slider, like on a sleeping bag, right? And then they hit each other. Do you want them to go toward each other or away from each other? Now with zipper by the yard, that's easy to do. You just put 2 sliders on there, and you can put 1 from each end if you want them going toward each other or away from each other. That's fine. Going away from them though, you can't really do that, can you? I don't think you can get 2 sliders on here that butt up against each other from the bottom. You can only do them head to head. Interesting. You'd have to have a slider that went on in a different way, and these always go on from the top through into the top. All right, so my last these little bins right here, I brought these out for Shem, even though I know he doesn't typically come to the live streams. I wanted to at least touch on some sliders, or not sliders. This is the slider, right? And this is the pole right here. This is the pole, this is the slider, right? And then you can add an extra pole, like a decorative one. I was looking for this bin for Shem the other day where you can add really cool things like this, right? And then you have something easier for kids to grab onto, or if you're dressing someone else, sometimes it's really handy to have something like this. There you can also make them for accessibility issues if you don't have a lot of grip strength. So, oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that when you think about how a zipper functions, if you were to zip away from themselves, that wouldn't be very functional at all. I think that it can work, but only if you have both heads at one end of the zipper. You know, we're getting into philosophical things about zippers, but this is what I was saying about the pocket thing. We had really long conversations. I bet they still have conversations about this to this day. So when you see a pocket and it zips and you close it from the top down, or you zip it up from the bottom to the top, like which camp are you in? And I am from the bottom to the top. And the reason I like that is because if you don't always remember to close your zipper, at least if you got it halfway, it's going to secure the contents of the pocket. That's the intent of the pocket. But it's easier to close your zipper if you go from the top down, which is nice. So if you have an accessibility thing, or you're like, no, I will never forget to close my zipper, my pockets, you know, I would go from the top down. So there's that. And then there's like little decorative things. Like I have a lot of different kinds. Look at this one, came with the slider on it. This right here you can make, and that's what this bin is. I'll show you that in a second. My friend Maria that I mentioned yesterday, I said that she is a really great sewer and does wood burning. She made me all of these. Like she made me my logo on my zipper pulls. This was the second, so I still have it. I've taken them off other things like this right here. I cannibalize everything. This is a beaded one that I made. I didn't make the bead, but I would add these to things. Concealed, yeah, they are concealed zippers, but the slider, they come pre-made on those. So if you were getting zipper by the yard, you can use zipper by the yard concealed or non-concealed, but you have to make sure you get the right sliders for it. That's all. But yeah, you can buy them on WayWhack. Exactly. I was going to tell you guys about that. yeah, so, and then this right here, this is how these look. So you get the cord, right? And you would loop it through your zipper, and then you lay each end. I have a ton of these, so we'll sacrifice one. This is something I would melt for sure. We were a non-melting factory because of the fumes. I don't like the fumes from melting this junk, like this stuff and any of the stuff. I don't like it. So like it's really bad for health. So, but for something like this, you're definitely going to want to melt this right here, and then you lay them, you loop it through the slider, right? You loop it through the pole of the slider, and then you lay it in here. And this thing is super pokey. Like there's a bed of nails in there. See them? It's a little torture device. You want to melt those because if they just start unraveling, the stuff unravels really easily. Look at that. It just starts unraveling really easily. The glue will, like melting it will glue it, kind of. You lay it in here, and then you close this shut, and it sounds really easy, and it's not. You have to get these perfectly in the center so that both sides can clamp down on either side of it, and then always one side doesn't want to shut. See? I hate these things. So then I usually will take something and push it. So this is why we didn't do these. I would take something and push it down in there and make it shut, because this is not finished. I'm not going to do it to my thumb because my thumbs are kind of sensitive that way. But this is why every time you use a zipper pull like this, you should thank the person that put it on, because there are thousands of people in the world with repetitive motion issues from this. I'm not kidding. We had people that came to our factory that did a whole thing, exercises. They stopped every 2.5 hours for a factory-wide exercise break, and it's different for every department. So thank that person for putting that on for you. The other funny thing is, what's the other thing that you do? Cord locks. You know, when you have a bungee and a cord lock, for the longest time, you had to squeeze the cord lock, stick the bungee in the hole, and then let it go. That act of squeezing the bungee, the cord lock for the very first time, they're very, very stiff off, like when they're brand new. And when you put the bungee in there, then you can release it. That little act ruined so many people's hands that they've started manufacturing them so that it was open. And then they didn't have to squeeze it that first time. They just had to stick the bungee in there and then go, and then it would do it. It still wasn't perfect. There are not machines that do that. I know it seems like there should be, but there aren't. There just aren't. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things I wanted to sew with you today. Do you guys have any questions? Is this actually helpful at all for bag making? I don't really know. There are really, like I told you, there's a huge world of really amazing bag making supplies out there that you can get. I think the thing to think about is, do you need to stop at either end? Is it okay if it's continuous zipper or zipper by the yard? The same thing. Or do you need it separating? And that's really what you should focus on. And the size, you don't want something too wimpy, right? Okay, so let's talk about zipper by the yard a little bit here. Sorry, my foot's on the pedal. I partially sewed this Notions wedgie here. This is one of my patterns. And I think it's a really good example of one of the fun things you can do with zipper by the yard. So here I have a piece of zipper by the yard, right? I just cut off this length, and it needs to match the length of my Notions wedgie here. So if you have this pattern and you're like, Saremy, that's not what the pattern looks like. The reason the pattern isn't one continuous piece is because most people don't have this. And I got a little bit, well, not flack, I got too many questions about it, so I decided to make it a little more friendly to a person that doesn't have zipper by the yard. So with this, though, if you wanted to sew the Notions wedgie like this, you just need to put your pattern piece on the fold, and same with your vinyl piece. That's all. That's all, the only thing I did different. So we're at the step where you add the zipper, and we're gonna pull it apart. We only need 1/2. And we're gonna set this aside. I have my slider here. And now what we're gonna do is sew this right sides together. So we want this is our zipper with the coil on this side. This is the right side. Sorry, it's a little bright, huh? Let me dim it down a little bit. Just a little bit. It's kind of a hard thing. Like if I do black zipper, you can't see it. If I do white zipper, you can't see it. That's better. Why is this? You know what? There's something wrong with Streamlabs right now. I didn't actually make any changes. When I open my editing or the adjustments, it goes dark. All right, so we're at the stage where we add our zipper. And so this side here with the coil sitting up, in this case, because of the slider we're using, it is the right side. So we're gonna put it right side down to the top here, and we're just gonna sew it on. Anyone who's nervous with zippers, bag making is a really great way to get over that fear because it's pretty easy. It's just a seam, right? So we'll sew this. Hopefully I can sew this well. I didn't use canvas. I used something a little lighter weight. So I lined both my pieces with just some quilting cotton. That's what this white is. So that's why it has like a little cute print on it. It's a muslin that I bought. All right, so I'm just gonna sew this on here and then I'll show you what the cool thing about this is. I don't wanna do too bad of a job. I can give this to somebody, but I am trying to hurry. All right, now I hope I can remember how to sew this right. Now we can turn this right side out. Being a little mean to our vinyl. This is gonna be like a little wedge, just so you know what it's like, and it has a clear bottom so you can see what's inside. All right, so now here we have it, and now we'll top stitch it. I like top stitching the fabric so that the fabric doesn't creep into the zipper. It's always worth either understitching it or top stitching through all your layers so this underlayer doesn't sneak into your zipper, especially if your lining is a loose lining and it won't be secured along all edges. So another little tip, I put my fingernails here, or my fingers, I'm holding the zipper coil and they won't move while I sew. And then this hand is pulling this. And it helps me sew straight and really firm, keep it nice and out of the way, right? So it's nice and flat. All right, now this is the cool thing with Zipper by the Yard. It is nice if you leave a little extra, like on both ends, but I didn't. My old habits die hard. So I'm gonna need to make these flush. They do need to be lined up. So the same amount hanging off on both sides is ideal when you do this. You can leave a little extra off, it just needs to be the same amount on both sides. All right, and so now we have our slide. We only need one side of the zipper in order to create a zippered opening. And what's really nice about this is that it makes it very soft. So when I put on a zipper, I'm making this look really easy. I know, I'm really sorry. It's just, I've put on thousands of these. So I put this one between these fingers and this one between these fingers, see? And then I feed it into the pole. And you see how my right side's is further in? Wait, it's further in. I will lift it out a little bit and kind of get them so that they're roughly lined up directly. This area right here is roughly lined up directly across from each other, because that's how it's gonna go in, and you want your bags to be lined up. And then I just push it on there, right? So now, this is why it is kind of nice when you're getting the hang of using Zipper by the Yard. Leave yourself zipper tail, cut it flush. You want the exact same amount hanging off on both sides. Get your zipper on there. Once you have it on there, you can just cut that off, that little extra bit, right? And so look at this. This is really nice. It's a really elegant finish here It's soft. It looks nice when it's closed. It's just a really nice way to do this. And I'm really glad a lot of the bag making world has caught on to this and they're doing this because it's just nice. And you are using half the zipper, but at the same time, you still have the other half. So it's the same amount of zipper. The zipper tip is good. Yeah, like leave it off a little bit. And then that way you have like a little bit of runway. And what I like about that too, if you have a little extra, is if things are going badly. So now this piece right here, I'll do it on this one. I have another slider here. So if it's going badly and I just cannot get it on there and I can't get it on there, and I can't get it on there, you can, you know, line up your two, if it's sewn on here, line up so you're cutting off the same amount and give yourself a nice, fresh, clean cut. Just a nice, clean cut. Yeah, it can be a struggle. I do have a short on my YouTube channel for this. It's so the zipper. Oh, yeah. See, that's great. I like that. So you're doing it going this way. Wait, you did it like, oh, I don't think I can do that, Sarah. I can't even hold it like this. You did it like this. Oh, that's so interesting. Wait a minute. You are onto something. Okay, can I get it lined up? I love that, Sarah. Oh my gosh. Okay, see now how I can't get it on there? It's on there. I don't want to lose too much of my tape, so I'm just being careful. There we go. That is so smart. That's hilarious. I love that. Yeah, so another gal I know, she says keep them different. And the longer one, so let's say that this is your zipper, she says keep one side longer, get it on there, and then put this on. I can't do it. I cannot get it to feed when I do that. So I think it just depends. There's a knack. And I know a lot of people are just like, there's got to be a tool for this. The tool is a knack as well. It looks like a two-pronged fork, and usually you mount it to the table and you put your slider on the two-pronged fork and you go like this. And it is not like a bzoop. You have to struggle with that as well. So yeah, so I think there's a lot of ways to do that. Sarah, I'm going to practice that. I love that. That's really cool. All right, and so now this zipper, like, oh, what am I going to do with one half of a zipper? You could do another wedgie, right? It's another thing to store, another thing to find, and another thing to figure out. Yeah. So I put this on here, and you can go like this. Like, I'm going to get it all the way, cut it, and now I have a zipper here. And I can even up the ends or whatever. So this stuff's so versatile. So, all right, so now this is pretty much done, right? I would sew my bag along the end here, right across. So here's my last tip with doing zipper, any kind of zipper. If the teeth go through the edge here, which is going to be a zipper either that you had shortened or zipper by the yard, all right? So here's one of my tips. If I'm gonna sew the seam of this bag, the best way to do this is to start from the bottom and go up to the top. Now, this is two reasons. In this case, it's really great because I can control whether this seam matches right here, right? And this is important too, but I could probably kind of finesse that if this didn't match, right? But I would really like this to match if I was selling this, okay? But up here, you really need to give yourself a little bit of leeway with these not matching up here, and that's because you can't sew a zipper. You can't fold the coil in half, right? You could go all the way up to sewing it all the way up to the coil right here where my thumbnail ends and stop, that's fine. But if you want to sew through the coil, you're going to have to offset it and push it one way or the other way, which means that you might not match up here. And that's just how it is. That's just how it is, and that's okay. So You angle them in too? Yeah, that's how this other gal does it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, another thing you reminded me, one thing I wanted to say about coil chain when you're putting your slider on is that your coil chain, when it's feeding in there, think of them, well, you don't even need to think of them. You're already thinking of them, right, of teeth, right? And they nestle together like this. So very clearly, these two bottom teeth, they can't be like this, right? They have to be offset from one another in order to be able to zip. So your zipper will always be one tooth offset from the other. So don't sit there and agonize over trying to get this perfectly lined up one across from the other. Just try and get it so that you don't have a bubble right here. In other words, if this side were, I don't know, 2 coils shorter and you put it in there, you got it in, and now you have this little, like, here, I'll make it more pronounced. There's a lot of people who will fight things because they don't like, they're like, no, it must be able to do that. No, there's just certain things, don't fight. Don't fight it. So like that, you don't want that, right? And that's what happens when your coil chains are too many teeth different from one another. You just want them one tooth different. If they're two teeth different, like, you know, then you're going to be off a little bit. They have to merge onto the highway. Let's hope they know they don't have the right of way when they do so. All right, so those are some of my continuous zipper tips for sewing them in. But yeah, this one up here, it's really important. I had a person argue with me about this one. It's like a customer. Why isn't this lined up perfectly? They wanted this seam right here to line up perfectly across from one another. And sometimes it will if we stop right here below the coil. And the problem with doing that is that you run the risk of this seam eventually, because this slider can butt up against the seam, right? So let's pretend like it's sewn in a seam, right? And we stopped right below the chain. We did not sew through the chain, right? What will happen is if this loses any stitches, even just a couple, and the seam can start coming undone, your whole slider can go zoop, right off the end. So unless you're going to secure it by offsetting it once, it's not going to get secure. So, oh, that's good. You know what I use, Terry, to hold a continuous zipper? Because the continuous zipper comes in 262 yard bundles or 213 yard bundles, 213 meter bundles. It's a huge bundle, and it is the worst thing in the world to deal with. We used a hose hanger, like a garden hose thing. That's what we used. we just mounted a really simple one, the simplest the better. It fit the middle of the, like we would cut the cardboard center, the flanges off the cardboard center of the bundle, put it onto there and just go whoop, and then that would be it. We didn't use anything fancy. You don't want a rotating one because then it can just get really messy. But that was our little thing that we did. I still have that hose hang out somewhere. All right. Oh yeah, this is a spoonflower fabric. The fabric's this is very synthetic though. Okay, so let's talk about different zipper widths. And I have 2 examples here, and I was also going to show you how to put a zipper in a pocket opening, a really simple way to do this, right? So I should have bound this first. Let me bind this really quick. What is this? Oh, I got this binding out. I'm like in like production mode. I was going to finish sewing that, but I'm not going to finish sewing it with you guys. We'll just finish sewing it someday. All right, I'm looking for my shiny side. Just going to bind this really quick. So I'm going to sew, if you're going to sew a boxy bag with me this week and you want to do a project box, this is the first steps of that. So the project box looks like this guy. So if you're gonna do the boxy bag, like in vinyl or fabric, it doesn't matter, and you wanna put this notions case on the outside, you still have to sew the notions case, but you don't need the back fabric or the stiffener. And then you sew the notions case as normal without that. So this is just a single layer of fabric back here. It's very soft and pliable rather than with the stiffener. So now here I have my front piece here, and here I have the background fabric, right? That's gonna show. Now my patterns were designed for zipper by the yard, right? So if I lay this on here, you can see that the zipper lines up there, and if I put my vinyl on there, it fits between this space right here. Now if I were to use this, let me do this down low so you can see. So if I line up my zipper there, right, you can't see the zipper poking down into the window. So now if we were to use a zipper I had on hand, like this dress weight zipper, which is fine. I mean, you know, this works. It's a little lightweight in my opinion, but you know, whatever, it works. If you were to use this one and we were to line it up as if it was sewn, you can see the vinyl, maybe you can't see, is a 1/4 inch shorter. So let me do it this way. I'll line it up down here, and we'll line it up here as if it's sewn. And it's much shorter, right? So we have this excess there. Now, in the case of my products, like the notions case, this is no big deal. You can trim all these under pieces, like this one, the stiffener, and the back piece, shorter to match this top assembly now. Or if you know this ahead of time, you could make the vinyl this much taller. So you could add to this long edge to bring this up to there, right? You don't do it down here, it's harder, it's curved. Just do it at the straight edge, right? And then that way you can compensate for these different widths. Let's say you were doing something, I was gonna draw a picture. Let's say you had a purse, right? I don't know, here's a zippered purse. Okay, and there was a pocket across the front with a zipper. And this is all one piece. So this piece is attached here at the seam. This piece is attached here at the seam. This is all one piece, right? Now, if this were the case here, if you were using a narrower zipper than what they called for, or a wider zipper, what you're gonna do is either add or shave away from these two seams. You would have to change it because you need this piece here to sew to the side piece here, right? The part that gives the bag depth. You don't want to change the length of this seam here. And you would, so if this zipper was narrower than what was intended, like a 1/4 of an inch, what you would do is you would want to add to this seam 1/8 of an inch and this one 1/8 of an inch to the fabric piece. And then you can use your narrow zipper and you won't have any other consequences with the rest of your bag. Because the last thing you want to do, especially on a bag shape like this, is start sewing with this baffle here all the way around, and you get up to here, like you're matching your notches and you're like forcing it a little to match the notches, and then it starts getting a little bit wonky. So what'll happen is you'll do that, and then when you sew the back of the bag, which is, you know, same shape but no pocket back there, your bag, like if you were to look at a silhouette, the front would be taller and lower here. Like they'd be wonky, you torqued, right? So you got to make sure that you keep these seam lengths the same. So when you're adjusting zipper or your pattern pieces for your zipper width, think about, okay, what does this affect? If I just use a narrower or larger zipper here, have I changed the seam length anywhere? And you have in this case, but in the notions case, that's no big deal. Like you literally could just be like, oh shoot, I forgot I'm using a narrower zipper this time. What am I gonna do? I'll just trim that off those pieces I cut out. No biggie, no impact, right? It's a notions case, it's standalone. This doesn't sew into the seam of something else. All right, so then the last zipper width change I wanted to show you was a pocket. What do I need over here? I'm going to take you off and you off over here. So here, let's say we were making the Making Backpack by Noodlehead, which I've made a few times here. And there's this little pocket, right, that gets sewn on the, I don't know, is it the front of the bag or the back of the front of the bag, not the back. The front of the bag, there's a little, or maybe it's the inside. It's the inside, there is a zippered little pocket, right? Now, if I was using, let's see, I think this one, I can't remember what she calls for. I think it's made for this right here. But one of the things I look at when I see these pocket windows is how big is my teeth. If my teeth are super huge for this window, it almost looks like the zipper is swallowing the hole. You know, like it overpowers the hole. There's no space between the teeth and the seam. So you got to be kind of careful putting some of these bigger chunky zippers. Like if you're doing like a molded tooth zipper here, you can't, you'd have to use a zipper foot as well, which I don't like using. So you have to be careful of that. So let's say you were doing these two, one of these two, right? And it was meant for this one, but you're using this one and you need, it's a difference of 1/4 of an inch. All you would need to do to accommodate this hole is shave off, like split that down the middle, that difference, 1/4 of an inch. We're gonna make our hole larger, 1/8 of an inch going down and up. So we would essentially, let me do this. We would essentially make our hole larger by that amount. Be very literal about it, right? And then you would cut your hole that large. Now you have a larger hole for the larger zipper. And the reason you also want to do that is because you want this zipper to lay flat in here. And if you don't accommodate it, so it's always good to know what did they ask for in the pattern. That does make a difference when it comes to holes like this. And now if it was the opposite, like say this hole was the size of this green line and you needed to go down, you would do the opposite thing. You would bring it in on either side. You don't have to do it on both sides if you don't want to. You can do it all on one side, you know. You can go, okay, I'm just going to make my hole bigger by 1/4 of an inch to allow for the zipper. I'm saying it doing it equally because I don't know what situation you're going to use it in, and if the placement of the zipper is integral to some other component on your bag. So this will keep it in the exact same, the coil lined up in the same position as it was before. Because sometimes they take into account some of the thicknesses that are stacking upon one another. So I'm just trying to keep you in neutral because I don't know what you're working on. So anyway, that's very easy to do, to change your zipper widths, just as long as the pattern designer tells you what they're using. It's very confusing when you see them use a rainbow coil zip and then a molded tooth zip and then a brass zip in all their samples, and you know all those zipper tapes were different and all those teeth were different sizes. That's not very helpful sometimes. I'm probably guilty of doing that, honestly. All right, so to do a really easy version of setting a zip into a pocket, we put our pieces right sides together. So this is the outer fabric and this is the pocket lining. And we sew around our hole, and I always start in the middle like I do on welt pockets. So I'll start over here, not at the end. Just do yourself a favor. Don't start at the end, okay? And usually it's 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Anything else, I question their sanity. All right, so we're just gonna go around and try and be very symmetrical. So, you know, I went 2 stitches past the end here, and I test it. Is that the same width? You know, we're trying to go for something very rectangular, right? We don't want parallelograms here. 1, 2. All right, down, and then I'll look to see, is that going to line up? No, not really. I feel like my machine is, a half a stitch off every time I do something like this. All right, so there we go. And now this is a low stakes welt pocket. We'll cut into our corners here. And I always check on the back side because often the layers don't cut evenly. And you can always trim more, by the way. Hint, hint. All right, and now what I'll do is I usually go to the iron and I will just start pressing the seam like this. Just pre-press. It's like pre-gaming your pocket, you know? I just kind of start pressing all these edges here. Lift it up, press, press, and then we'll throw it inside here. Right? And be firm. It's gonna look like a mess for a bit, all right? It's okay. So look at that. It looks like, oh, this is never gonna lay flat, right? Oh, no way, that's never gonna lay flat, right? But it will, I promise. So I give it a good tug, like this. And again, I get in here, and remember, I'm ironing this, and I'm gonna do it from the inside so that I can see a little bit of myself peeking, my self fabric peeking through this little opening here. Not me, like this. So I turned my iron off, otherwise I would be over there. But I'm serious about when I say I press this seam flat, like it doesn't, let's see, will it matter? I think that it is a little easier if you press from the lining side and you press, just to press the seam flat. It's not gonna stay that way, I know, but it makes it easier to lay flat and be in the position you want later. So we just press all this all the way around. We're less concerned with this side. We really want this side to look nice, right? And then we press it. I pull the lining so I can't see it, right? Just like that. And then now we can lay our zipper behind here and top stitch it on. Make sure it has a slider. I'll put a slider on this so I don't get, I'll put a cream slider on so you can see it. At one time I walked in the office. I hope Rayanne's not listening because she'll be like, oh no, don't tell this story. She had done this bin of things. I can't remember what it was. I don't think she did very many, but she put white sliders on black zippers and didn't even think about it. Oh shoot, this one's getting a little tired. So I'm just gonna give myself a nice clean cut. And I usually at the end of the day, like when she's done, I would like go through things. I would get everything ready for the next day because she came in like hours before me. She was an early riser. I wouldn't sit there and scrutinize her work, like probably contrary to what anyone would think. But I would look at like, oh, cool, we've got those zip doubles in that fabric done. I can put those on the website. I would just kind of check in and see like, what do I need to put on the website again? What do I need to refill? What am I shipping tomorrow? Whatever. And I remember going, oh no, she's going to be so bummed when she sees that. And there were all these bags with the wrong, like this. She wasn't happy. She was like, why'd you set these aside? And I was like, you really can't tell? And she's like, no, they look fine. All right, so now your danger with this is that your zipper, I just want to use a cream zipper for you. I'm going to use a cream zipper. Can you see this better? You can. You can't even see the black on camera. I'll put this. This isn't even cut the same. Another huge advantage to zipper by the yard is it's dirt cheap. And by dirt cheap, I mean like 7 cents a yard cheap to buy wholesale. So that's why it's really affordable also to buy it retail, is because while they're charging a lot more, they can't charge that much more, right? So they kind of rein it in a little bit. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting the zipper on. It's getting a little tired there. Plus I'm trying to hurry. Put this side in first. All right. So now we have our zipper. So now this would be pressed really nicely, right? So now the one thing, I think the one danger with this is that, oh, this thing is so freaking wonky, is that you don't want your zipper to like be at a diagonal inside there. So you need to make sure that doesn't happen. Those of you who use things like glue tape might appreciate that for something like this. There we go. Finally. You can also just use Scotch tape, you know. I know a lot of bag makers who use Scotch tape to place like webbing straps and things like that. So I get my coil there in the middle. I will admit I never used pins, but you can just pin this, right? Just pin one side so that your zipper is centered. This is a really big hole, to be honest. I wonder if this was an 1/8 inch seam allowance. That would be kind of weird. But I just traced the making backpack pocket. All right. And then now we just top stitch it in. So it's not like a true welt pocket with a zipper. That's sewn very, very differently. And it's a lot harder to do. And for the lining, I'm reaching under over here and I'm pulling it that way a little bit because I can see a sliver of it, right? And what I'm going for right now is a nice parallel zipper to the seam. Yeah, there you go, Lindsay, like double-sided tape. That would be a good thing too. In bag making, you know, it probably won't ever be something that you need to remove, you know. And the same thing over here. I reach under, I pull my lining. You can go right over that zipper by the yard coil. And now you don't want this to happen. You don't want this to pull like this, right? Or go too close. So this is now our thing we're thinking about. So I'm pulling my lining under there again and stabilizing it. I don't think we had any products with this kind of zipper pocket on it. So this was never something we had to sew. Zipper tape is very flexible. It's kind of a really weird fabric. I've complained about this a lot on camera because the one thing I found with zipper tape is that, you know, you can whoosh it around a lot, but it's also super fixed. Okay, so there's your little zipper window, right? And you just have the zipper tape raw on the inside. And that's okay because it's a zipper pocket inside the lining of a bag usually. Like this is what's gonna happen, you know? You put your hand in there. That's not gonna bug you. It's not like a garment, right? And then this gets sewn like that across the ends. And there you have your little zippered pocket. So it's a really easy way. You can add this in any kind of thing either too. Oh, that's great. Your hinge zipper foot. Oh, okay, that's good to know now that I have one of those. Yeah, I like the hinged feet. I rely on this. I don't even realize how reliant I am on a hinged foot. When I started seeing that there were unhinged foods, I was like, oh, that would make me unhinged if my foot was not hinged. So what I mean by the zipper tape being sort of crazy is that the zipper tape in here, it really moves around a lot. Like it can really just drive you crazy. When I sew like zip doubles or like the top of this Notions wedgie, often what I find is that, is the seam enough? Would you care? No, the seam's plenty. The seam's totally plenty. Yep. Yeah, you don't need to stop at all. It's another thing I like about once you've sewn across the ends, it's fine. Because I will often, with things like the little brass zipper, I don't usually like this showing right here. So I will really carefully sew across the end so it doesn't show. Dicey, right? Oh, I have another little tip I can show you. But anyway, the zipper tape thing, I just want you to know you're not crazy if you're like, my two lengths were the same, like this lining and this outer. They were the same, but why when I got to the end was the lining sticking out a lot farther or the outer fabric sticking a lot farther? It's this freaking zipper tape. It'll drive you bonkers. And we found that if one was on top of the other, like when you were doing the zipper, if it was on the top layer, it was easier, I think. I can't remember what it is, but just know that sometimes it maybe goes really well your way and other times it doesn't. And it's probably where the zipper is in the layers of how you're sewing it and what's against the feed dogs. So this stuff is notoriously loosey-goosey, even though this outer edge, super fixed. And then also it runs like a Dickens, right? It just kind of unravels on you really easily. So it's really weird stuff. So another little thing I wanted to show you, I can just do this with a piece of bias binding here. You know how sometimes they'll tell you to sew across they'll add fabric to the end, and I love that look. If you don't want your zipper sewn into the seam here, or say this is a really long zipper and you're like, dang it, my zipper is 1 inch too short. It's the perfect color. Why can't I use it? You can make it a little longer, like if it's not zipper by the yard, or if it is zipper by the yard, or maybe you just want this look. It's just something you can do by just adding a little fabric sandwich at the end. And you can do this like with the bias binding. What's nice about the bias binding is it will not unravel, which is nice. But you could do this with grosgrain ribbon. That's what you usually see people do it with. So right now, then we can stitch across the end, and we can do the same at this end, right? Cut 2 pieces. There is one step in the quickie where I have you do this, and that is so you don't have the zipper going into the end of the case, because where it goes, I'll show you. I brought it here. Which one is it? Is it this one? I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one here. Okay. So for this here, I have you do a little fabric end here because otherwise this zipper would end in the bound seam here and down here, right? And I have another, oh yeah, here, I have a better example actually. Is it this one? I've sewn a few of these. Here we go. Can you start, oh, the zipper tape? I wouldn't go to that trouble. It's not that bad. All right, so here we go. So this one I used like a little lightweight home sew zipper. And so that's why these aren't as wide as they were on that other one, because I used zipper by the yard, which is wider tape. But see, if I hadn't added this little fabric end here, the zipper coil would be going right up to the bound edge. And I just didn't want people to have to deal with that in binding, just in case maybe their zipper had a stop and they wanted to conceal it. Like this one, I concealed the stops at top and bottom. I didn't want that silver showing. And it's inside the seam allowance there. But this is just like one of these little zippers. So like, I think those stops at the top are kind of ugly sometimes. These are cheap, right? That's just the bundle from Way Whack. All right, and so I will do that with binding, bias binding strips, because the fabric doesn't unravel like this raw edge here. But you could also do it with like grosgrain ribbon or something like that. And in that example over there, I used fabric. And it is one spot in the case, you can see inside, that the fabric is, there's a little raw edge right there. In there, but it doesn't hang below this bound edge because this binding is on the vinyl only. So the zipper's like this, and then I put it behind this bound vinyl edge, just like I did on the Notions case. So I go like that, right? So, but that is a really nice, clean way to kind of make your zipper look a little fancier, clean up any of those metal ends, which can be kind of ugly or pokey or scratchy. Just be really careful sewing around them if they're on the zipper. You know, this is coiled chain, so that was really easy to do. But if you were doing it like on this, you know, these metal zippers here, you've got to be very, very careful. Okay, so, oops, what happened? Oh, we're gonna put my phone. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh, I know I didn't put the pull on, but that's just because I know when I'm done streaming, I'm just going to cut it off and throw it away, and I still have my zipper. There we go. Zipper. So I didn't forget, I just used them all up. So yeah, anyway. Okay, do you guys have any other questions or any other, I'm sure I'll think of a dozen things I could talk about with zippers. And I do get a little off topic when it comes to zippers because most of my experience is with clothing versus bag making with zippers. We only ever did zippers. Oh, I don't even have one of those here either. Right? So zipper cases, like we had cases where you open it like this, and then you could store all your needles in there with pockets, right? And it zipped all the way around the three sides of the case to close it. I use zipper by the yard for that, and other people will use separating zippers, and there's advantages to one over the other. The separating zipper, there's no point to use a separating zipper for that. It's overkill, and it's really hard to line up your zipper. Like, you don't want to have to try and get the little separating thing into the stop at the bottom, right? And they, you know, I'm actually wrong. I don't think they're using separating zippers, but they're going to use something more like this, right? They'll use a fixed length zipper. That's fine, but it just, you got to be really good. And eventually you'll find that you give yourself a little more leeway with the zipper by the yard. And we would do the same thing I did here. We would take the case, like let's say this is the case, this right here, right? This is the case. I don't have a better example. We would sew the zipper from here. It would hang off like this. It would hang off like this. We'd hang off a little edge, and we go all the way around with our zipper, zoop, 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 and they would come around like this, and we'd have these two little tails hanging off. We'd get those even, and then we'd put our slide on, and then once our slide was on, I would finish it with some binding. I was literally at my storage office. I could have grabbed one of those, but I forgot about it. I forgot that that would have been a good example. And so yes, I had the little thing hanging off, but it gave you something to hold on to zip the case, which was nice. It's always best to use number 5 zipper. Oh, I don't know. I use 4.5. I don't know why it is, but I feel like the zippers usually go 2, 3. Sometimes I see 4, but not very often. And then it skips to 4.5 and then 5. And the difference between 4.5 and 5 is kind of big. So I like 4.5 a little better. I think 5 is really heavy. So if I were making a purse, I wouldn't go higher than 4.5. If I were making a duffel bag, 5 would be fine. You know, you could get away with that. A backpack, 5, 4.5 or 5. It depends on what you have available to you. Dress weights are 2s and 3s, right? You don't really want that on a bag. But you could get away with it on a Notions case, you know. Not that big of a deal. But I do like this weight here. It's easy to handle. The tape doesn't get too wide. The zipper slider and pull hopefully is a manageable size. But we also saw that there were really big ones people could get, like this. They could get the really long tail, like Annie does. Look at this gigantic, not tail, pole. Look how gigantic this pole is. It doesn't look that much different on camera, does it? It really is, though. Like, this is probably twice as big in volume, like width and length. And it's metal. I'm just not a big fan of metal. I will say I like the lighter weight. But that's 4.5. Pretty sure. Let's see. Let's see. I only have 3 sliders left with this coral. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I made my Blanca flight suit with this. Yeah, so this is the same size slider. So you can have a lot of fun with colors too, right? You know? All right. That was a little longer than I thought. All right, tomorrow I'm going to go over my meager knowledge of hardware. And then Friday is when we're going to sew the boxy bags, and that's free pattern. And then Saturday I'm going to do a test run of my travel bag that I haven't sewn in years, and I'm going to try and scale it up a little bit. So that's my plan this week. The boxy bag is free on my website. It's not a revolutionary pattern, you know. We just made it in vinyl, so that was kind of fun. And if you want to do a project box, get the Notions case pattern as well, because that will allow you to do that. They're both free. All right. Thanks for coming, you guys. I will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Where's my thingy? There it is. Bye.